Hello everyone, welcome to the SMITE Comprehensive Guide to Mid. This time we will be talking about Poseidon. Since this was a request by someone, this was the same... No, I'm sorry, I have to be a jungle. I apologize. Who was this that requested this? Was it Diego? No. Although I do need to do an Amaterasu solo at some point in the near future. Anyways, so this was a request, and the interesting thing about Poseidon is that he is abnormally... Oh, a jungle Zonqui. I don't like that, but I'll talk about why at the end. Um, so, ignoring the... Okay, amen. So, Poseidon is fairly interesting as a mage because he actually can really effectively play three different roles. Mid, obviously, he's a mage. ADC, and jungle, which I talked about in a previous comprehensive guide episode. I can't remember which one. It might have been one of the Ratatoskir ones. But he can also play a pretty good jungle if you know how to build it. He's not great at solo lane because he really doesn't have the tankiness, nor does he have any access to tankiness, and unfortunately, because he is fairly classic in his mage scaling, building a defensive Poseidon tends to make his damage fall off too hard. Now, it looks very likely, actually it's almost guaranteed that my opponent here is a Poseidon as well, so that's going to be fairly interesting. Now, with Poseidon playing mid, okay, this is going to get very odd. What ability you start with depends on what role you're playing Poseidon as. In mid lane, you start with I believe it's the Crushing Wave is what it's called. If you're playing jungle and you've picked up very specifically Boomba's Dagger, you want to start with the Whirlpool. Otherwise, if you're playing jungle or ADC, you want to start with the Trident for the increased attack damage. So it really depends on what role you're playing. I will eventually discuss Poseidon in the other two roles. Obviously, right now we're just doing mid. Now I'm looking at the enemy team composition. It looks unusually tanky. I'm betting that's a jungling Bellona, if I had to take a guess. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my sort of knee-jerk assumption. Who isn't loading here? Oh, it's Gabrakan. So that's my instant assumption here. It doesn't really make a difference either way. She's going to be a little bit tankier than either her or Sun Wukong is going to be a little tankier than the average assassin if it's Sun Wukong instead. So either way, I am looking at a slightly tankier team composition, and that's going to adjust my build a little bit here. Now, this means that I'm going to want to go for... And Kraken just doesn't show up. Can we pause this? Please? Can we pause this? Somebody? Anybody? Hello? Alright. Yes, there we go. Alright, so I know I'm going to want a little bit more penetration than normal. I'm going to want Soul Reaver. I'm going to very specifically want Soul Reaver. But now I have to ask myself, there he is. Do I want Gem of Isolation? Would that really help against the enemy team composition? And the short answer is... Well, I don't think that it would do much against... Well, let's see. Alright. So we're going to do a couple of very interesting things here, but the very first thing we want is some lifesteal. We'll talk about some other stuff later on. We're just going to go ahead and grab a bunch of potions, and then we're going to go on ahead and probably grab Aegis. It's going to more likely help us in the long run. I'm not too concerned about that, about my beads at this particular point in time. They don't have a ton of hard CC. That's an interesting strategy. I'm gonna... Oh, we are gonna do the speed. I'm not really sure what she's thinking here. Oh, she's gonna go... I see. She booby-trapped their purple, and she will just barely make it in time. Okay, that's a strategy. It's always interesting to see what Arachne jungles do with their webs at the start. It's always a very interesting time. I don't have my mouse set up properly again. What is wrong with me? Fortunately, since I have this straight line to go in, it was a fairly easy fix, and I just press the key manually, so we're all set here. Not even a problem. There we go. She should have backed that up towards me, but it's only going to cause us to lose a couple seconds. It is a jungle Bellona, as I expected. I'm not terribly surprised by this. We're going to just have to play this a little safe here because they beat us handily. And this is because this actually isn't necessarily a serious problem. This is the nature of taking the spiders first with Arachne, which is usually how you want to do it. Most Arachnes I've seen typically go for the damage on the blue buff for the solo lane to give them a push. So going for the purple buff to slow down the enemy duo lane is a fairly interesting strategy that I haven't seen at all, actually, at least not in this meta. I haven't seen it. So it is very interesting. Horus in the solo lane is a fairly interesting time. We're just going to go ahead and leave her with that because I have to come over here. And then we have Bellona there. You back off. Now, I very specifically chose the starter item because as a ability, I'm going for an ability-based build because I am playing a classic Poseidon mid lane, so I am going to want to focus on those abilities, and it's just really nice to have the cooldown and the mana regeneration for your abilities. You'll see that it's actually doing me a pretty good job of increasing my mana regeneration. I'm not too concerned about that. Once I finish Bancroft's, I'll be able to also heal myself up really quick, which will be really nice as well. I'm going to go ahead and let Arachne solo clear the... Maybe I shouldn't have. She's a little... No, she just caught up to Bellona. There's Bellona over there. I can't go and do anything with that because I'll lose my wave right now. I'm also expecting her to show up over here pretty soon. Now, why am I going for Bancroft's Challenge first? What is the specific logic with Bancroft's Challenge? And why am I building that over, say, Book of Thoth, as an example, which a lot of people build? Well, I already know, based on the tankiness of their composition, that just the pure raw damage out of Book of Thoth wouldn't necessarily do me as much good. I could go for Warlock's Staff for some penetration, but I'm going to actually be able to handle that without any kind of serious problem. He's going for something else entirely. He might be going for Charon's Coin for the HP and MP5. Actually, it's pretty likely he is, to be honest. I'm not sure why he bothered. It was a little too early for that. Do you have potions? He's got mana potions, and he went for the same thing. He's just, I'm wondering what his first item is going to be. Like I said, I think it's going to be Charon's Coin, but it's a little early to go for that. Oh, so close, so close. But, oh shoot. That was a good blink. That was a really good blink. But that's exactly why you are going to want some lifesteal in on this. Did he get the assist for that? He did not. Alright, so he gained no particular benefit from that. He'll probably be a little bit ahead of me just in terms of pure... No, he might not even. He hasn't returned to lane yet. Oh, he'll probably get that particular wave, and then he'll be a little ahead of me from that. In terms of experience, at least. He's not going to be as ahead of me in terms of gold. Yeah. That's what's going to wind up happening. That's okay. Hey, that's already cleared. Cabrakan is too powerful. Cabrakan too strong. I'm not sure why he bothered with that. That was a little odd. Now, what is he going towards? Okay, definitely not Doomorb. I was going to say, Doomorb is a little too expensive for him at this point, so I would have been very surprised to see him build that. Now, you'll notice I built regular wards here. You need the numbers of the wards more than anything else, because obviously, you know, I just got slapped down by Bellona. I could go for that experience camp, but I don't know where Bellona is, and I don't want to take any chances. So we're going to clear this very quickly so I can go back and clear my damage buff really quick. Or a quickish. There we go. Now again, you'll notice I am increasing Tidal Surge is what it's called. You'll notice, oh, she wants to go for the... She pinged that a little late. It would have been nice to have that pinged. You backed out? Okay. Okay. Why would you bother? That was a complete waste of his ult. I'm not quite sure why Sylvanas even bothered with that. That's a little weird to me, but okay. Now she's going to use this for healing, I assume. There we go. Going ahead and use a health potion here just to make sure. Boom. Clear these out in the background. Got him. Nice. That's huge for me. That's huge for me. That's going to help me recover from my earlier death, and that's going to put him behind. That's actually pretty huge in all, just in general. Absolutely fantastic, but now I have to keep an eye out on where Bellona is, because very likely she's going to be looking for revenge. I don't know why Sylvanas is going so hard on this. He doesn't hit hard enough for this. He's building pure. I'm not really sure why he's so aggressive with this. He has no reason to be this aggressive. Where is Bellona? Okay, she's over in right lane. That's fine. Let's go ahead and grab these. Yeah. You're really heavily aggressing onto me. I still don't understand why you're bothering. This... Oh, that's why. Problem solved just like that. He was just trying to stall me out and poke me down for when Poseidon comes back. Still odd. I shouldn't have put that ward there. That was a total waste. I'm going to go back at this point because I want to finish my Bancrofts. I probably should rotate over. Yeah. Oh, he died. Never mind. We're fine then. Where's Bellona? I don't know where Bellona is. I'm still gonna go back. Yeah, it's just Sylvanas, to be honest. I don't think he's gonna cause any serious problems. Now, at this point, I'm gonna go for Charon's coin. This is for some penetration here. And then after that, I'm gonna go ahead and probably grab... I'm not really quite sure. I might go for Typhon's Fang next. Or I could go for... Spear the Magus. Yeah, I know how I'm going to build. I know exactly how I'm going to build. We'll get into that later on. There's Bellona over there. She's probably going to die. I can rotate specifically because the enemy Poseidon is nowhere to be seen. Okay. Alright. Okay. Ooh, Apollo. Yep, the Apollo got me. Now, there's an interesting issue going on here in left jungle, and it's not Trubdis's fault. Bellona's been leaning on dual lane fairly heavily because they had a bad start thanks to the Arachne throwing the spiders down on the purple buff. But as a result of that, we're now seeing... Oh, he went for a Chronos Pendant right away. Interesting. As a result of that particular decision, though, now Bellona is leaning very heavily on that lane, and Arachne is not adjusting for that. At this particular point, Horus is far enough ahead of the enemy solo lane Sun Wukong where he shouldn't really need any more ganks, to be completely honest. Now, to be fair... My opponent, the Poseidon, the enemy Poseidon, is going over there to try to help out Sun Wukong. But that's my problem, not Arachne's. She shouldn't necessarily be rotating over there. She should be focused a little bit more on the left jungle, because, quite honestly, that is the side that Bellona's focusing on, and she should be there to back that up. She really should. Because at this particular point, she shouldn't need to be in right lane. Although it would help if the Horus wasn't being overly aggressive the whole time. I'm not really actively looking to fight him there, not with Sylvanas right there. Just going to back up here. Trying to see if there's any opportunities. Okay, see Charybdis. Charybdis is fine. She's just pushed down another lane. Another wave. And we have... Why is... I need to back up here, because I'm about to get slapped. Yeah. That was very impressive. Where I'm just going to try to keep the enemy Poseidon out of this fight, because they have Sylvanas hands down, no problem. Yeah. I just wanted to keep the enemy Poseidon out of that, because he would have made that a mild disaster. So I just needed to keep him out of the fight. I needed to zone him out, and that's exactly what I was able to do. I accomplished what I needed to do there, and my team was able to clean up both the Bellona and the Sylvanas with no particular casualties, which is exactly what we needed there. That's going to put Arachne back ahead of Bellona. It's going to put Cabrakan ahead of Sylvanas. That's going to overall be an extremely good thing for the team at large. That was fairly significant. Now, you'll notice, by the way, I'm increasing my Whirlpool second. This is, again, primarily because I'm ability-based. I'm not really looking to boost up... Okay, we're just going ham on this over here. That's a conversation to have. But, there we go. I don't want to chase the Sylvanas. That's not going to be worth it because there's nothing to fight for over here. I actually am going to go back at this point in time. We're going to finish Charon's Coin. Now, I'm building Charon's Coin. I'm building my penetration a little bit earlier than I normally would. I wouldn't normally build Charon's Coin this early, and the only reason I'm doing so is for two extremely specific reasons. First off, that's great sustain. Second off, it'll start building stacks, which will increase my movement speed. Poseidon doesn't have a real escape, a genuine bona fide escape, so you really need increased movement speed to get yourself out of particularly ugly situations. So I want that movement speed boost. I could go into Doom Orb. I don't intend to, because that's just not going to have as much impact as Soul Reaver, to be completely honest. I accidentally hit the wrong key and increased my auto attack thing. What is this called? The Trident? Yeah. I accidentally increased this. But they already know that the enemy Poseidon is in left lane for some reason. Now, the reason... You might be thinking, why is this Poseidon rotating so much? Poseidon has the movement speed boost from Trident, so he's actually really good at rotating a little earlier than you would expect most mages. He's particularly good at rotating after level 11, very specifically, but the problem we're seeing here is, oh, we're going ham over here, huh? Alright, that's all I needed. I just needed that stun. And again, another thing that you'll see me increase a lot is my ult, very specifically for just the incredibly powerful ability-based damage that brings to the fight. I don't need to fight you. No. No. She's under tower. That's not something we can do anything with. We can't do anything with that. Are you... Okay. I'm kind of surprised she went for that. Junglers have this, and I totally understand why, but junglers have this really serious problem with defending their speed, where they will defend their speed buff to the death. The reason why it's particularly important for Bellona is because she has a lower baseline move speed than Arachne, just because of the difference in their classes. Bellona's a warrior, Arachne's an assassin. Arachne's base move speed is, therefore, by default, a little higher than Bellona's. In order to keep up at this particular point, since Bellona is now 3 levels down, she needed that speed buff. I'm actually going to go over here and gank Apollo, very specifically because at this point, now that I've taken their tier 1 tower in mid lane, I don't need to be in that lane at all. Hi. I just don't need to be in the lane as actively. Yeah, I just lost a wave there. But on the other hand, now I've just helped Charybdis, and I can take this really quick to put myself back on the level of experience I need to currently, and then I can clear this. Sylvanas, what are you doing? You can actually see, by the way, the benefit of the movement speed right there. He just walked right into that. Come here. Come here. Okay, there's Bellona, which is problematic. Yeah, that's fine. You go right on ahead and ult me. I'm concerned about the Sun Wukong, though. I gotta get the hell out of here. Am I gonna make it? Yes. I'm out of here. I don't need to be here. I don't have quite what I want here. We're going to go ahead and grab our beads as well. That's really nice there. Alright, so my next move, like I said before, I'm thinking I'm going to go for Typhon's Fang. No, I am going to go for Spear of the Magus. Now, Spear of the Magus is going to help with the increase of damage because this is specifically a 7.5% increased damage from all sources. What a lot of people fail to consider is that this includes Soul Reaver. Soul Reaver does more damage as a result of this. Okay? It just doesn't matter. It's all sources. So, in this, at least if I'm reading this, well, actually, I am reading this correctly. I'm just not sure mechanically if that's how it works. I would describe myself as 90% confident that mechanically that is how that works. Okay. Okay. Beads out of here. Beads out of here. Okay. I'm just trying to keep an eye out. There's Poseidon. If we can kill Poseidon, that'd be great. Because I'm not right now as concerned. Oh, here's Kraken. I don't know why I'm still here. I don't need to be here. I'm trapped. Whoops. He missed. Alright. That was me being hyper arrogant, but I shouldn't have survived that long. What is that? My goodness. Alright. At this point, I am going to go into the Typhon's Fang because that's going to give me the last bit of pen I need. That's going to bring me up to 30% penetration, which is minimally what I'll want in this particular scenario against this tankier than average composition. So that's going to be really nice. It's going to give me some more lifesteal. And it's going to make my healing just so much better. We're going to, at this point, now start building sentry wards, because no one's warding the fire giant. Technically, that's either the solo or the jungle's job. Neither of them are doing so for some reason, despite the fact that both of them are fairly well fed and basically rolling in dough at this point. It's not a serious problem, to be honest. We are far enough ahead where it's not a big concern that they'll try for fire giant. They'll actually push for the mid tower, which is impressive. They did need that. I'm not going to deny that. I don't think we're going to get anything out of this. Slow him down, slow him down. Nope, alright. We're just going to come over here and take this. Nope, please take this. Thank you. Alright, you can see my damage really starting to come out here. Yeah, they massively ganked Tribdus. The reason why they ganked Tribdus at this point is probably for the very specific reason that they want to be able to free up Apollo to be able to participate in team fights from lane and not have to worry about losing his tower. Why would we attack left lane right here? I don't think this is a great time to attack left lane because I'm pretty sure no one's there. Well, there's Sylvanas. Oh, no, there are people there. They have not left that lane for some reason. What are they hanging around for? Were they doing jungle camps? They had to have been doing jungle camps. Alright, perfect. You can just see the amount of power I can bring to bear in a fight. It just takes him a little bit of time to get online because, of course, again, as a mage, his scaling is pretty high, but his flat damage is just good. Most of his damage comes from that scaling, so you really have to wait until you actually get your damage online, and this is one of the other reasons why you want Bancroft's Talon, is because that's going to give you a 100 power boost when you're low on health, and a 100 power boost right off the top. So it's a really good way to spike your damage a little early, especially when you're in danger. They shouldn't be this far up. They're going to get away, because we don't have enough people here. Alright. I forgot they changed it so that way the push doesn't make the clone fade anymore. I keep forgetting that. I am not 100% sure we should be fighting them this far into their jungle. Although we're pretty fresh and they aren't, so that does give us a distinct advantage. We can actually cut off and kill Sun Wukong here. He's doing the right thing. Oh, I need to back him up. Get out of here. Yeah, they got that. I just need to keep these people off. Zone these people out. Yeah, there he goes. I completely whiffed that. Oh, he's diving. Alright. Ah, shoot. Why am I tanking this? Excuse me. Alright, good, good. And then we're just going to go ahead and take this. Now, Poseidon, because of his trident being able to do 3 shots, is actually unusually good at taking towers. This is actually one of the reasons why he's such a good ADC, which you will one day see. Goodbye. Goodbye. Oh, shoot. I did damage too recently. Yeah, we've got this in the bag. And... oh, hi, Sylvanas. How you doing? That was not a well-placed Whirlpool. That was trash, actually. What the hell is that Whirlpool? Excuse me? There we go. Alright, we're now going to back up. I think we can take mid-tower. Meanwhile, Apollo is split pushing. I think that's what they're banking on at this point, maybe. Beads. I don't think we're gonna... oh, wait, I heard the stayed with me. Okay, we can take this. We can take this. We're good. We need to get the hell out of here. Go, go, go. Okay, what is Apollo building that he was able to kill Kraken? He's building crits. Okay, they surrendered. Alright, so... well, I didn't get a full match out of this because for some reason people just keep surrendering. You were very much able to see why Poseidon is very powerful. You were able to see the combo of Whirlpool, then Tidal Wave, or Tidal Surge as it's actually called, and also Kraken. The good old Kraken. You can also see the flaw of Poseidon where his... and I'm going to go actually into his abilities to showcase this, but the flaw of Poseidon is really in his early game. He's got a really weak early game. And part of the reason why his early game is so weak is because as a mage, he doesn't have the greatest range. His Crashing Wave has average range, and then his Trident ability, that fires 3 shots off, but they very slightly expand outwards, so the closer you are to the target, the more likely you are to hit all 3 shots. So that makes him a little bit riskier in the auto attack category, and it does make him an unusually high risk, high reward magic ADC. We'll talk about that specific episode. But we do have that benefit there as well. And then finally, the Whirlpool, wherever you're aiming that to be, that's the center of the Whirlpool. So in order to entrap an enemy in the middle of the Whirlpool from the outset, you need to be a bit closer than you would ideally want to. So as far as, and the same thing goes with the Kraken actually, if you want somebody to be in the center of that Kraken, you have to be a little bit closer than max range. And that can make playing Poseidon a bit riskier than a lot of other mages. This is actually one of the reasons why he has become much less popular in recent times, because there is a bunch more much safer mages to play nowadays. Ra has always been safer, and he was a contemporary of Poseidon for a long time. They would frequently, for a very long time, one or the other would be used. Poseidon for his crowd control, and Ra for his range. Basically, it was a really interesting personal preference there. You had clear advantages to both, and those were the dominant mages besides Zeus, who just brought absolute raw power. And those were the big 3 mages, with the occasional Kukulkan popping in. And then as more, as mages have changed, items have changed, that has changed a lot more, where there's a lot more viable, pro-level viable, I'm speaking about the pro level at this point, a lot more pro-viable mages, but Poseidon has fallen off a lot, because he is riskier than, say, Ra, or Thoth, or even Zeus, who is, compared to Poseidon, a safer mage. Zeus has his own issues that makes him not quite as safe as I'm making it sound, but we'll get into that on Zeus's episode. At the end of the day, Poseidon is incredibly and unusually useful in all of these roles. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Professor, Poseidon's abilities have all of these really great ways of supporting as well. You've got the pushback from the Tidal Surge, you've got the cripple slow on the Whirlpool, you've got the pop-up from the Kraken. What's not to love? Well, the short answer is that his passive means fairly little for supporting, which of course doesn't really matter. But the problem is that Poseidon's early game is so incredibly weak that while his abilities are supportive, his baseline protections and his inability to increase his own protections naturally do make him very, very hard to make work in a support role. Now that we have Protective Mask, I do intend on running some tests on this, because that might make the difference. I'm not sure yet. But before this season, at the very least, again, I haven't tested Poseidon as a support in this season. I haven't gotten around to it. The Protector's Mask might make all the difference here. Maybe. Maybe. Because, yes, you are correct. His abilities do have support potential. But, back to Poseidon as a mid lane, I keep getting distracted, I'm sorry. I specifically chose Sands of Time for the cooldown in the passive. I mentioned this in the beginning of the game, and this will evolve into the very powerful, what do you call it? I can't remember what it's called for the life of me, but it gives you 20% cooldown and a huge spike in your power, which you want at the late game at that point. And then I went right into, of course, good old Bancrofts. Again, this is primarily to get a nice spike of magic power and a really nice spike of magic lifesteal. Now, this gave me the advantage I needed over the enemy Poseidon, who went with Chronos Pendant. Now, this is 10 less magic power at max HP, but the instant I start losing HP, I have much more power. This doesn't matter as much in the late game, but in the early game, where we both have pathetically low protections, power is what wins 1v1s in the mid lane, alright? It's just how it goes. Furthermore, if I get ganked, I stand a much higher chance of surviving because I have the lifesteal to do so. Chronos Pendant is really nice if, for some reason, you don't see yourself needing quite as much damage. There are two critical issues with Chronos Pendant as a second item. I'm just going to lay these out for you right now. The first is its cost. As an item, it's pretty damn expensive. More expensive than I'm comfortable spending in the first half of the game. I think it's 2,800, if I remember off the top of my head correctly, but if it's not exactly 2,800, it's pretty damn close. That's very expensive for the early game, at least for a mage. You want something that's going to help you sustain and survive, and if you have Sands of Time, you have the MP5 you need. You don't need the MP5 out of Chronos' Pendant. I don't care how many abilities. Well, okay, there are a couple of very specific mages that could still use that MP5. I'll talk about them in due time. Just to throw out an example, though, Hell is one of them. But you don't really need this MP5 on Poseidon. Why is this? Why was when I was talking about what I would build in the future, you'll notice I did not ever mention a second cooldown reduction item. Why is this? Why did I not want to stretch for even 30% cooldowns on Poseidon, 30% being the standard? The short answer is, actually the long answer, is that you'll notice above Poseidon's picture there was a tide meter. That, if you have that over a certain threshold, your abilities do extra damage based on a percentage. So, how do you fill the tide meter? Very simple. You land auto attacks. This is the reason why I rarely build more than 20% cooldown on Poseidon, because I don't want to be using abilities all the time. My concern with Poseidon, when you're playing mid lane Poseidon, your concern is not, oh, I'm going to run out of mana. That is not the concern. The concern is, oh, I'm going to run out of tide, which, yes, is going to make people listening nearby think you're going to talk about the laundry detergent, but for Poseidon's case, running out of tide means your abilities are doing much less damage. I believe it's 20% increased damage, but I'll go and double check that in a bit. I want to talk about the build a little bit more. But that's why I wasn't exceeding, well, let me rephrase that. I wasn't planning on exceeding 20% cooldowns. The issue with having, I call it 40% cooldowns because I assume he would have gotten 40% with whatever, because whatever you evolve this into, it gets you, it keeps, I think it goes up to 20%. Regardless of how you look at it, Poseidon doesn't need 40% cooldowns because he's auto-attacking less than. He's not refilling his tide the way he should be with 40% cooldowns. I've personally found through personal experience that 20 to 30% cooldown reduction is all you really need on Poseidon, and you can reach 30% using the Potion of Power if you really want that. So that's fine there. But usually I'll stick with the 20%. I build Sands of Time, I evolve it, I get that 20% cooldown there, and that's, most of the time, that's all I really need for Poseidon. Because I still, even though I'm playing ability-based, even though I'm focusing my damage and my abilities, I still need to be making impact with auto-attacks to increase my tide meter. Okay? That's why cooldowns are only kind of important for Poseidon. Where a lot of other mages would really emphasize that cooldown reduction, Poseidon can relax a little bit on that because he does need to refill his tide meter. So that's why I also went into Bancroft's Talon, and that's what gave me this nice early jump over the enemy Poseidon. I was able to hit harder, I was able to heal. The enemy Poseidon was unable to heal and was not hitting as hard. He was hitting more often. But again, once he ran out of his Tide meter, hitting more often at 20% less damage, that's not mathematically completely accurate, but we'll pass over that. Hitting 20% less damage really hurts in that early game, or 20% less power, I suppose I should say. My third item was, again, like I mentioned earlier, this was very specific to the enemy team composition. Bologna built less tanky than I anticipated, so I would have wound up being wrong, but I was still, as you could see in the second half of that game, I was really starting to slap. Also, you could even see, which was really nice, and thank you, Sylvanas, for this, you were able to really see the impact of movement speed, because there was that one moment where Sylvanas was trying to lock me down in the jungle after I had just ganked left lane, and Sylvanas missed both times. That wasn't because the Sylvanas was bad. That has nothing to do with that. The Sylvanas was actually, in terms of his ability, let me rephrase that because that's going to be a confusing sentence. I just was reading it in my head. The Sylvanas' capability of landing abilities was impressive. The Sylvanas has clearly played Sylvanas for a good amount of time and knows what he's doing with the Sylvanas. He had a really rough time because of the team compositions and his team being building like crazy people, which I'll again get into in a minute because there's a couple of other builds I want to talk about here. But the Sylvanas was able to land his abilities really consistently, but yet in that moment in the jungle when he was trying to lock me down, he whiffed both his abilities. And the reason why is because the Sylvanas was automatically making adjustments for a standard movement speed. Now keep in mind that Sylvanas actually has played against Poseidon's enough where he was factoring in even my trident boosted speed. If I had not had Charon's coin, he absolutely would have hit me with those. It wouldn't have mattered, to be honest, because I would have been able to just slap them down and get away at that point. I was starting to snowball then. But he had already adjusted for the trident movement speed boost, but he hadn't factored in Charon's coin, either because he hadn't checked and didn't know I had it, or he just wasn't used to Poseidon's building this, even though this is a fantastic item on Poseidon for very specifically that reason. Now, that's not to say that Charon's coin is going to save you in every single situation. Obviously not. It's just boosting your movement speed. But it can be enough of a boost of movement speed to throw off people like Sylvanas, who are so used to Poseidon moving at one of two specific speeds, trident or no trident, that suddenly moving substantially faster through the power of Charon's coin, or alternatively Doom Orb, can be very powerful. And again, Charon's coin was helping me against the feared Sylvanas Gauntlet of Thebes. So even though it was a little early to be building 20% pen, it was helping me against Sylvanas very specifically, and it was going to help me in the future. And then, of course, Spear of the Magus, increasing that damage that enemies are taking, increases my healing as well, because obviously the more damage I'm doing, the more I'm healing. I was going to go for Typhon's Fang for more healing and an additional 10% pen for 30% pen, and then I was going to finish up with Soul Reaver, just because of how inherently tankier the enemy team is. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Professor, Bologna wasn't building tank. No, she wasn't. But as a warrior, she still has higher max HP than the average assassin does. So she was still going to have better HP than a lot of assassins do, so it was still going to be more useful overall. My error would have been, in the long term anyways, my error would have been the excess penetration. I probably didn't necessarily need 30% pen. It wouldn't have really hurt me. It's still a really strong build against this composition, even factoring out Bologna building protections. But again, Poseidon is really incredibly flexible in this way. I could build, like I said, Gem of Isolation if I was really concerned about dying. Gem of Iso is really good on Poseidon. Ethereal Staff is quite nice. Not as nice as Soul Reaver in my opinion, but there you have it. We'll talk a bit more about itemization on Poseidon in a bit. I want to talk about some of these builds because some of these are absolutely wild. Also, I just realized you built jeweled studs. And for some reason, animosity. Well, okay, I can kind of understand that, but jeweled studs, huh? That's interesting. So what very specifically was happening? Why was this match so strange in terms of protections? Now we're going to pass over the Sylvanas' build. That's fairly standard form. He was Aurabotting, and that's fine. He probably wasn't originally planning on building Heartward Amulet, to be honest, because our team comp is very specifically physical dominant, physical, physical, and physical. Gobrakan and I were the only sources of magic damage here, so he probably was not intending to build Heart Ward. That was probably a reaction to me, if I had to guess, because under normal circumstances, there would not be enough justification to build Heart Ward against. Well, then again, the Gobrakan's building of some mild damage in the form of Chronos Pendant and Stone of Binding might have gotten Sylvanas to build Heart Ward as well. I think it's just a combination of how I was beginning to snowball, and Gobrakan was clearly interested in doing at least some damage that might have tipped Sylvanas into building Heart Ward. I'm going to guess it was a combination of the way Gobrakan was building and the fact that I was snowballing. But I don't believe that the Sylvanas was originally intending on building Heart Ward Amulet, because you typically wouldn't need to. A lot of people still do, so I'm not guaranteed on this, but it's just a kind of a feeling. Again, the Sylvanas really did know what they were doing a lot of the times. Just some of the decision-making on trying to lock down somebody in mid lane sometimes was rather confusing because allies were not as near to him as I think he thought they were. That might be a map awareness issue, I don't know. But, you know, Sylvanas, totally fine. Sun Wukong, pretty standard build overall. The choice to go Mystical Mail was a rather bold decision, though. For a couple of reasons. Now, I know a lot of people build Soul Eater on Sun Wukong. It's fine. It is very good on him. Horus built Golden Blade. There's a very specific reason for Horus building Golden Blade. You might be confused if you haven't played Horus before. But Horus's abilities, his first two abilities, give him a very specific variation of his basic attack. His Whirlwind gives him the tornado that he shoots out, and his Stun Dash gives him a sweep. Both of these will trigger Golden Blade, and if you hit multiple minions with either the tornado or the sweep, each one of those is going to individually proc on those minions, and he absolutely tears through waves very quickly with Golden Blade. Alright, that's very specifically why he built this. Now, this is also the reason why Sun Wukong was having a better time overall with Soul Eater. Before Horus built Golden Blade, Sun Wukong, with his much better wave clear, was probably absolutely decimating the waves and very likely got Soul Eater evolved, and I'm pretty confident that it was probably due to a gank by Arachne, a well-timed gank by Arachne that probably saved Horus from this fate, because Horus didn't die at all. Sun Wukong only has 2 deaths. I'm guessing one of these was approximately that weird time window of Sun Wukong finishing Soul Eater and Horus not having finished Golden Blade, because that would have been Horus's most vulnerable moment in the match. That's fine. I understand that. That would have put Sun Wukong a little bit behind, but mostly it would have just put the two at even, basically. So Sun Wukong still very easily could have recovered. Then Sun Wukong builds, interestingly enough, Mystical Mail. Now, my problem with building Mystical Mail is, at this particular point, Horus now has Golden Blade, and is decimating Sun Wukong's minion wave about as fast as Sun Wukong, if not slightly faster. This means that Sun Wukong can range anywhere from having minion even to minion disadvantage. Okay? Mystical Mail essentially guarantees that Sun Wukong is going to be targeted by Horus's minions at all times. And yes, Sun Wukong can clear the wave really effectively, but considering that Horus can heal himself and his minions as well, I think it might have been a better choice to have gone Contagion here. This would have reduced the amount of healing Horus would have received both from his ability and from Warrior's Axe, and it would have given Sun Wukong more physical protections to better resist the damage output by Horus. Keep in mind, Horus only has 2 abilities he can inflict damage with in lane, his first and his second. His third ability, he heals himself and whoever his flying target is, and his ult, while it does do damage, isn't something you want to use in lane. It takes too long. So, in terms of boxing, Sun Wukong can effectively use his entire kit. Horus is limited to 2.5. I say half because he could theoretically ult back into his own lane for a surprise bit of damage to enter into a fight with Sun Wukong, possibly. But Horus is still fairly limited in his damage output, so building more protections early on, just really loading up on the physical protections, would have really helped Sun Wukong not take that much damage from Horus. And I'm sure Horus was poking Sun Wukong out using Golden Blade, because Horus would have just had to have hit a minion and 50% of the damage would have gone straight to Sun Wukong. So the higher protections and the decreased healing from Contagion would have probably been a better choice than Mystical Mail at this point. I think Mystical Mail simply sealed Sun Wukong's doom, forced him into a really negative duel with Horus, in which Horus had a couple of minions left alive and Sun Wukong did not, meaning Sun Wukong was probably taking a couple of seconds of extra damage from the minions before he could kill them as collateral damage while trying to damage Horus, is basically what I'm seeing here as a potential issue. Horus went into Glad Shield, which would have not only provided, as you can see, similar physical protections, this is 35, this is 40, as well as similar health, this is 200 health, this is 250, but that passive is really going to help Horus keep up with Sun Wukong in terms of damage, considering, again, he only has the 2 abilities to do damage with, Sun Wukong has 4. Alright, so the Horus, all along the line, building great, Arachne definitely coming in at the key moments here, and ensuring Horus stays ahead. Then Horus built Genji's Guard because at that point he was rotating. Sun Wukong doubled down and built Glad Shield, which, even if it wasn't Contagion, this still would have been a better pickup than Mystical Mail, because it wouldn't have guaranteed that Sun Wukong would be pulling enemy mini-aggro when he didn't want it. So this still would have been a better choice than Mystical Mail. Again, I want to emphasize, Mystical Mail is very good on Sun Wukong a lot of the times, but in this particular situation, I think it was the mistake. And then he was building his magic protections at the end here, because at that point he was actually starting to really get slapped down by me. It's interesting that the Poseidon built Gem of Isolation. Why? No, I can see why. He gets me, Arachne, or Cabrakan into a Whirlpool, and we're never going to get out without beads because of Gem of Isolation. No, that makes sense. That's a good pickup. This should have been instead of Chronos Pendant, to be honest, but even then, that's still very expensive. He should have built Lifesteal. He goes for Divine Ruin 4th, that's actually a good pickup. I have Lifesteal. I'm clearly looking for more. Horus heals himself. Arachne heals herself. Cabrakan and Charybdis wouldn't have cared because they weren't self... Well, Charybdis, I suppose, has Death Stole, but... Yeah. So, I did want to talk about very specifically the Sun Wukong's build. I also want to make mention of a mistake by the Bellona, namely, there's 2 specific mistakes here. No, this isn't a mistake. Golden Blade is a mistake on Bellona. Bellona does not need Golden Blade. Alright, her hammer attacks, her hammer auto attacks are AoEs already. She doesn't need Golden Blade. She can even do the actual ability itself, doesn't need Golden Blade. She has enough damage output to small areas that she does not need Golden Blade for farming. This was her mistake. This set her back immediately. Alright, this was probably built for the move speed. If I'm going to be really honest, there's still better things you could build here. She could have built Stonecutting Sword, which also offers movement speed. She could have built the Hasten Katana she was going to build later on anyways. That would have been a really nice, strong opening move. Ikavul, I can totally understand. We have an auto-attack heavy potential comp here, including myself. Obviously, like I said, Poseidon does to some extent need to hit auto-attacks. Arachne is an auto-attacking assassin. Charybdis is an ADC, obviously. So this is actually a really strong choice. I think, though, instead of building Hastened Katana, she probably would have been better off with Frostbound for the same reason. That would have reduced attack speed. That would have made it very difficult for myself, Arachne, or Cabrakan to get away from her. I think Hastened Katana, not a bad item on Bellona and justifiable given she is playing jungle. I think, in the long run, a better choice would have been Frostbound Hammer. Then she was going for some unholy reason, Oboe. I'm not sure why she would build this at this time. Again, she doesn't necessarily particularly need this. This might have been to try to deal with Arachne's spiders, but I've never seen Arachne's spiders be so much of a problem that you needed to build Oboe as an assassin, or as a jungler. Let me be more specific because she's actually a warrior. But I've never seen people need to build Oboe, especially when they have an AoE auto attack available to them. It's a very odd decision. But the mistake here really was definitely Golden Blade. She never needed that. That put her behind because Golden Blade on Bellona is too weak to accomplish what she needs it to. And Hastened Katana, while not a bad choice, definitely Frostbound would have been a little bit better for her. But let's talk about Poseidon's abilities really quick. Not the store. Get out of the store. What am I doing? Misclicking. That's what I'm doing. I can't click on anything I'm looking for. Here we go. So you'll notice 70% magic power. This one doesn't scale because it's just boosting auto attacks, although it does increase the scaling by 25%, which brings his scaling for his auto attacks to 45% total. Just throwing that out there. And then you've got 15%, which sounds really weak until you realize that this is doing that flat damage plus 15% of your magic power 6 times every half second for 3 seconds. Yeah, you're hitting them 6 times with this. Oh, 15% tied, by the way. Keep in mind, 15% tied. 20% additional damage at max tied. Yeah, 20%. Yes. Also, by the way, tied. Basic attacks, 10% tied on hit. Triple that here. And then we have Release the Kraken. Pulls 20% tied. 45%, 45%. Now, keep in mind that this is basically a second hit. It basically is doing double damage, so it's essentially the center of the Kraken is doing 630 damage plus 90% of your magic power. You can really see the significant difference here in power. And again, Tidal Surge does 70%. Poseidon's got some really intense scaling going on here, because 70% is nothing to sneeze at. And even then, in a pinch, he can still Trident for some extra damage as well. And again, we're talking 45% scaling on his auto attacks. Poseidon really needs power, which is the case for a lot of mages. But this is why his early game is so rough. But consider, just to pull Tidal Surge as a classic example, consider Chronos Pendant with 90 power, right? Chronos Pendant with its 90 power. 70% of that is 63 extra damage, right? Great. So you're doing an additional 63 damage. I'm doing 70 at full health, and I'm doing 140 extra damage with Tidal Surge when I'm at a quarter of my health or under. You can see the really substantial difference. I'm more than doubling what the enemy Poseidon is bringing to bear with his Chronos Pendant in terms of extra damage based on power, which is pretty substantial. And this is the reason why I typically do build Bancrofts on a lot of ability-based mages. It just makes more sense. It's a really nice early game power spike that gives you lifesteal so you can better sustain and better survive in the mid lane. There are exceptions to this, and we will talk about those as they come. But Bancroft's talent on Poseidon is an absolutely phenomenal thing. And I recommend, in a lot of scenarios with mid lane Poseidon, that's probably going to be your best bet. I don't care what your laning opponent is, you will have zero issues building Bancrofts. Play as safe as you need to depending on your opposition. Have a field day. Alright, that is Poseidon in the mid lane. He's very straightforward. He's not really complicated as a mage, which is wonderful. But you have to be aware of his early game weaknesses, the fact that he hasn't got a real escape. You have to be very careful, and you don't want 40% cooldowns. He doesn't need 40% cooldowns. Alright, keep those things in mind, and you will have a fantastic time with Poseidon. Interestingly enough, just as a final aside before I end the episode, Conquest is a good mode for him, but I personally have always preferred him in Slash. He's really good there. A lot of people like him in Arena. I feel like you're kind of throwing away his nice movement speed boost with Arena, but that's my personal take. But with that being said, thank you all very much for joining me. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, please ignore me. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, or requests, please leave them down in the comment section below. And thank you all very much for joining me, and have a great 24 hours.